3. Shall we get into this one?
Yeah,
or would you like to put that together
Let me
first?
put this somewhat together.
This can be one of those Coke can experiences. Let's go. Classic
Welcome to the Gateway Podcast.
Oh my god! It was like episode in the 30s or something like that. And Ralph had a can of Pepsi Max or something, and I literally went, "Alright, can you get this one?" He went, "Yep, let's go." I was like, "Welcome to the Gateway," blah blah blah, and then literally as I'm 5 seconds in, Ralph, just absolutely grabs it.
No regard.
Not dropping tech or anything. All right, let's get into this one, eh? Alright. Oh god. All right, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 62 of Board Game a Gateway podcast. I am Neva and I'm your host for today's or this morning's episode, whenever you happen to be listening to this. And I am joined by two lovely gentlemen sitting on either side of me. First of all, to the right, I have Mr. Ralph.
Hey.
And to my left, I have once again Mr. Joel.
Hello.
Now, this is number 3 that he's been on the podcast in a row,
correct.
and we're going to start
Third
this off.
time's the charm.
Third time's the charm.
Yeah, I mean, the first two were a bit.
For long-time listeners, you'll know what that means. The last time that somebody came and did 3 podcasts in a row, we couldn't get rid of him, and he took up a permanent position on our podcast crew. That was Mr. Damien, and now, seeing as he's made number 3 in a row,
we kicked Damien out.
This is the way that he's finding out about it right now.
Yeah.
No, we have an exciting announcement, which is that we would like to officially welcome Joel to the Board Game Gateway family. Thank you very much for being here, sir. We love it. Welcome to have you.
Thanks for having me.
I don't even know what the hell I said there. It's lovely to have you here. Welcome to, I don't know.
Just lots of haves. There's haves to be had.
Exactly right. And so Joel will be joining us in doing hosting duties and on the podcast going forward into the future. He'll also be a regular attendant at the at our game days as well.
Absolutely.
So that is a good thing. Speaking of game days, we have a second exciting announcement that we would like to officially announce here on episode 62, which is that B3GD is going under a little bit of a change, and that change is now here. You can see the little logo is on the screen right now. We have decided to officially change the name of B3GD. We are changing it to Sydney's Family Game Day.
Hopefully I'll remember what that means now.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. No more acronyms, and we're going a bit more widespread. So B3GD is now going to be rebranded as Sydney's Family Game Day, and this is a decision that we've made as a group to kind of better encapsulate what our game days are all about. It'll be the same game day. It'll be the same fun experience, but just now with a bit more focus and a bit more, hopefully, get some more people into the game because.
Like our podcast is all about bringing new players and families into board gaming, and we want to have that mainly be demonstrated as an example at our game day where we can say, right, we have 100 board games here, and the format's still going to be the same. We're still going to have our game library there. We're still going to be able to teach those games, but we want to make sure that we have, that dad that may listen to our podcast actually bring his family in, and we'll actually teach them how to play games such as some of the games that we feature on our podcast as well.
Absolutely. And so it's the same day. And we're also excited to announce that if you're listening to this podcast now, the tickets are officially in early bird pricing. So they are open, and we are now officially selling tickets to Sydney's Family Game Day on January the 11th of 2025. If you get in right now, we are currently selling general admission tickets for $15, which is a 25% discount. And we're also selling family tickets, which are 4 general admission tickets, 2 adults, 2 adults, for
2 adults, 2 children.
2 adults, 2 children.
Yeah.
You're on it today.
Which is $50, which is just under a 20% savings there as well. So if you are looking to come to Sydney's Family Game Day, which is going to be one of the best game days in Sydney for all of our families. This is absolutely go purchase your tickets now because we do have a limited capacity for the game day.
That's right. So the game day is on January 11th at Campbelltown Catholic Club. We'll be opening doors, I believe, at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
And we'll be gaming all the way till 11 p.m.
That's correct.
But you are welcome to kick on if you can still handle more board games.
That's right. Now, if you want to take advantage of the early bird pricing, that will be going all the way until the end of October. So at the 31st of October, at 11:59 p.m. That's when that will cease. But after that, then you still will be able to get a few different things, as we will be selling at that point an evening-only ticket, and we will also start offering the double passes at that point. But until then...
And we'll still have, the format's going to be the same. We'll still have, our social games will start later into the evening as well. We'll still do our raffles early afternoon as well. We'll be raffling off certain games that are provided to us as well. And yeah, I'm quite excited for it. I'm really keen.
So we're thinking, what, so $50 if you get in now, it's the whole family for 13 hours of games.
Yeah.
There'll be teachers on site,
Yeah.
games supplied for you, and some social games at the end of the day as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there are clean bathrooms as well, if that sells anyone.
Well, at the Catholic Club, good food there.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing. The great thing about the venue that we are in is that the Catholic Club, it does, Countdown Catholic Club has got a bistro downstairs, which is very friendly and welcoming, has a playground for the kids. You can come in, have lunch, spend the whole day there. And, for $50 for a family of 4, that is, a whole day's worth of gaming.
It's
for
so
12
much
hours.
cheaper than the movies.
Well, that's the thing. You get so much more time. And the kids
It's a whole day too.
Exactly
not a
right.
couple
The kids
hours.
will be so much more engaged in it as well. And you'll be surprised how fast the time goes and how fast your day goes.
And you get to see us. Isn't that the best bit?
100%.
We're trying to attract people there.
Yeah. Well, you got me now. So
Look, exactly right. So look, he was our sponsor in the last one, and he liked it so much he wanted to come and join our podcast.
One
that
of
is
us.
fair. That
He's
is
one of
fair.
us now, exactly
I've
right.
been converted.
Anyway, so that is Sydney's Family Game Day, which is going to be on the 11th of January 2025, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. at the Campbelltown Catholic Club.
Perfect school holiday activity.
Absolutely perfect school holiday activity. Anyway, so that was our announcements at the top of the podcast. We are now going to move down to the games that we have played. On today's episode, we are going to be chatting a couple of things. These two lovely gentlemen attended a Blood on the Clock Tower weekend hosted by this one over here, Mr. Ralph.
Sure did.
We're going to have a quick chat about Tokaido because I've been playing it again, 2012 classic. We're also going to have a chat about one of the best party games I think I've played in recent memory, Hand-to-Hand Wombat. And we're also then going to have a chat about our gateway game of the week this week, which is Land versus Sea, not Land and Sea as he would do it, as you kept saying in our
Land versus Sea.
Land versus Sea, which was graciously provided to us by Let's Play Games Australia. But before we get to there, gentlemen, Ralph, you hosted another game night.
I have a bit of a bone to pick with you already.
Oh no!
Because you
What did I do?
just said one of the best party games you've played recently is Hand-to-Hand Wombat.
Yes.
Blood on the Clock Tower is the #1 party game.
Oh, depends on the party.
But you haven't played
It's
it
group
recently.
dependent.
That's right.
It's group dependent. Is it a party? No. If Blood on the Clock Tower is not there, it is not a party.
Well, to be fair, I did host Blood on the Clock Tower at GooberCon last year, and the first thing one of my friends came when she came outside and saw that I was running a 14-player game. She goes, "What is this? A cult?"
Everyone stands in a circle, eyes
It
closed.
was hilarious. It was
Yeah.
really
You know,
good.
that reminds me of we ran a clock tower event at a bowling club, like a traditional lawn bowls thing. And we're in a private room playing clock tower, but the doors were open. So the public playing the pokies could see us playing clock tower. And everyone's asleep at night and someone's just waking people up, tapping on the shoulder. It looks like a cult. And one guy was at the pokies with a typical NRL jersey, butch
Random
guys.
South supporter,
It has to be a South
Yeah,
supporter.
it was a South supporter.
Probably.
There's always one, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a whole page for it.
Yeah. Anyways, he comes into the room, looks over, and he's like, "What's going on here? Is this a cult?" And we started talking to the guy. The following month when we played there, he was playing with us.
I will say as well, when you
This
try
is
to
great.
explain what Blood on the Clock Tower is, it kind of does sound a bit like a cult. Well,
It
there's
is
a
a
demon
cult.
and we're trying to find the demon. Why?
It's like a massive escape room puzzle, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to playing this recently, just at an RSL. I hold pretty much monthly events for it, as most of our listeners know. And it was a lot of fun. I introduced 4 completely new players to it.
Fantastic.
They played 3 games of Trouble Brewing, and then 2 of them stayed on, and we played Sex and Violets after.
Yeah, they were great additions too. We played a few games with them, and they quite enjoyed it. Really got into it.
Definitely. So I'm excited. They said they'll come back, and they had a blast. But in our SFV game, I was a mutant, and that was actually one of the most fun times I had playing a mutant, actually. So their ability is, if you're mad or if you tell anyone that you're an outsider character, you may die. That is your ability. So it kind of sucks. It made me forced to stay hidden pretty much all game. I did not break madness, which may have killed me.
Yeah.
And I talked to one of the new players, and I was like, "Oh, pretend they were a powerful role. I think they were the sage. So if they die, they know the demon is 1 or 2 people." So I was trying to tell her, I was like, "Why don't you pretend that you dreamt me as either the mutant or the demon that is very legitimately the right one."
Yeah.
So that way Town will kill me, and then I can be like, "Hey, Town, I was actually the mutant." And I was trying to do that.
Yeah.
Didn't work out. The pit hag actually changed me from the mutant into the klutz, and I had to do a pick to keep the game going.
Yeah, okay.
So that was quite an interesting game, but that was honestly the most fun I had in SMV for a long time.
We did a custom script game. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, the Boffin or something.
Yeah,
The
and
Boffin.
That was Josh's custom script.
What a great name, Boffin.
And
That's actually a new character, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
And a couple of things happened. There was a character in the game that meant that I was on the evil team, but I don't know who my demon is. So that was interesting to start off with. Turns out she was sitting right next to me the whole time.
Oh, the poppy girl?
Yeah, I think it's Poppy Girl. So
Yeah.
I think that was definitely interesting. Changed the dynamic of it.
It does. It's so tense, isn't it? Because you don't know who to nominate.
For sure. And because I was on the evil team, I got my ability, and it makes me, I get to pick someone, and I get to pick that they're mad that somebody else is evil, not themselves. So they have to convince everyone else that you're evil, for example.
The harpy.
Yeah, yes, I did get Harpy. I was trying to get for the name, but couldn't remember.
That's all right.
And because it was the first time I'd played, I was like, I don't know who my demon is. What am I going to do? So I just picked the two strongest players that I felt in the group.
The socially strong players.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like these two have played quite a lot. One of them's a close friend of mine. Let's go for it. Day one, we go through everything. We talk about it. We come back for the first set of nominations. And immediately one of them goes, I've got a feeling that Joel's the Harpy and he's made Jared evil about me. And I couldn't believe it. They picked me off immediately.
Wow, that's
no
incredible.
one had even spoken about it. They just went, I just think that if he was the Harpy, he would have picked us too.
That makes sense.
They were correct.
Yeah.
But we managed to very luckily get a win out. So that was nice.
I was in a Poppy Grower game where I was the assassin and I didn't know who the demon was. And it was getting to that mid game where I was like, I should use my ability to kill someone. But I still didn't know who my demon was. What did I do? So I just killed myself. And it was good to sort of come off as a good player, but I kind of felt it was a wasted ability in that time. But the Poppy Girl is really powerful.
It makes it, it definitely, all the strategies that you may have had beforehand just go out the window.
Yeah.
I was doing the same thing. As the Harpy, I was like, am I going to make my own demon evil about somebody else? Or,
Which is still fine. You can make yourself mad that the demon player is the evil player. Yeah. And then just come out later saying I was actually Harpy mad. It's actually really interesting.
It was good. We had one of the players in our group got demon twice in a row, which is typically something that happens to me. It's the first time I didn't get the demon.
Nice.
So that was nice.
I haven't been evil in that game for a very long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You've been playing with me too much. That's why.
That's true.
It's imbalanced.
Yeah. We've added another Blood on the Clock Tower player to our group. So for those of you who've never played it, I am super sorry about the fact. But if you want to learn more about it, make sure you go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@BG Gateway.
Yeah.
And you can see our intro to Trouble Brewing. You can see our intro to Sex and Violence, the secondary script, and our interview with the designer, Stephen Medway, who is an Australian as well.
Next year, we're hoping to cover a deep dive into Bad Moon Rising.
Absolutely.
As well as the Travelers and the experimental characters.
We are also...
So there's a lot of Clock Tower content to come later.
And we are not only a Blood on the Clock Tower content, but we found that this community is super growing in our area and super willing to be involved, and we would like to help facilitate that. So we also have a couple of other special things that we're in the middle of planning out. We'll see whether or not we can do that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we're going to move on from Blood on the Clock Tower because we have a lot of that content and we want to get to 2 games tonight. First of all, we're going to start with Tokaido. This is a game I'm going to talk about it very briefly because it's a game that I've been playing. I've recently bought back into my collection because to me...
Oh, it's like a collection type game.
It actually does have collection in it, but it is one of my favorite gateway games that I actually use to introduce people to the mid-weight. I say mid-weight games, just a light to mid-weight game. Tokaido was released in 2012, and it is designed by Antoine Boza and is the art by Xavier Duran. Okay, now what this game is, Tokaido is a game from 12 years ago, and the premise of it is that we are Japanese travelers, and we are traveling from Tokyo, from all the way from Tokaido to Tokyo, I believe, are the 2 cities. And the way that you play the game, and this is the game is a super simple game of it is played over 4 rounds, and each round represents a day, and each day you are traveling from an inn to another inn. Okay, but the way that it works is this game is very simple. Is the person at the back of the queue gets to move forward along the way, and they choose any spot between where they currently are and the inn at the end of the round. Okay?
So the Aussie reskin of this is a pub crawl.
Pretty much. You could absolutely. You could do Blacktown pub crawl in Tokaido, right? But the way that it works is along the way that you score points is this game has got a bit of a point salad feel to it, which is that everything that you do scores you points, such as go to a hot spring, get some points, either 2 or 3. Go to the bank, get gold. Okay, if you get gold is points at the end of the game. Okay. Go to the temple where you can donate some of that gold. And if you don't, every coin that you donate is worth points at the end of the game. Also, the person who donated the most amount of points in the game gets a bonus. Congratulations. Then there are 3 different artistry points where we are trying to paint the sea, the mountains, as well as the fields. And one is worth, the fields is only 3 cards long, the mountains is 4, and the sea is 5. And the first person to complete each of those paintings gets a bonus, but also every consecutive piece of the painting that you finish is worth more points. So the first piece is worth 1, the second piece is worth 2, the third piece is worth 3, so on and so forth. And then at the end of the day, when you go into the inn, you need to, you can also go shopping. I also didn't mention, so here's the set collection, which is that you can buy different pieces of your wardrobe. And for every complete outfit that you are able to complete, so a headpiece, an accessory, a garment, and some footwear, you get points. And then you go to the inn, and whatever money you have left over, you can then buy a meal. And basically the way the first one in gets first choice of all the meals. And then you can take the cheap meal, and all of the meals are worth the same amount of points, right? Yeah. So then you rinse and repeat, and you do this. So the first one into the inn is always the last one out of the inn because you had the biggest meal, and therefore you slept in, and everyone's out before you. But the great thing about this game and why I love it so much is because it introduces the concept to people of you can move anywhere between these 2 points. You can skip.
So you can just go straight to the inn.
Absolutely, you can. But if you do that, you just keep getting turns, right? So if we had 4 points, so for example, I had the bank, I have the shop, I have the hot springs, and I have the painting, and I really want to go to the painting, I can go straight to the painting, but I'm going to miss the 3 stops beforehand. Yeah. But Joel, if you decide that, you know what, I'm going to go to the bank, you can go to the bank. But then Ralph goes, I'll go 1 in front of you. So you 2 have just had a turn, but then you get another turn because you're still behind me in the line. The person at the back of the line.
So what's the incentive to go to skip a location?
To get because you can never take a location that someone's already at. So if I'm already at a location, you cannot go there. First. Okay. Yeah. So if I go to the painting spot, and I know you really want the painting, I can go there, and then you have to wait till further along. Or more importantly, in this game, the bank is super important because it allows you to get money. And there's not a lot of things that get you.
So it's give and take with your actions, where you can either take a lot of actions that'll do a little bit of points, or you can really go for the big spots.
Yeah, and jump for the things you really want. Exactly right. And so I really like Tokaido. There are a couple of little, the advanced variations that you get given a player who has a special ability, such as every time you take an encounter card, take 2 of them. Every time that you leave an inn or you enter an inn, you get to take a random piece of a painting for free, right? Example. But it also means that character starts with a specific amount of gold. So you may start with 6 gold, you may start with 9 gold, or so on and so forth, all of this kind of stuff. So
did you play this with the family?
I have played this with the family. I also played it at one of our recent MacArthur board gamer nights, and I introduced 3 people to it. This is a game I like because you can play it in an hour. It can play up to 5 players, and the replayability of this game is it's very super, super relaxing. And it does give you that. It gets actually pretty intense when you're like going, I really want that spot, but if I go there, I don't know if Ralph or everyone is going to let me get to that spot. So you actually have to start making decisions. Yeah, exactly right. So we find that when I've played this game, I get so many people. The moment that this game clicks is the moment they go, but what if I go there? Mm-hmm. Does that mean that Joel can go there? Yes. And does that mean that Joel, because he's behind me, gets to get another turn before I have my second turn? Mm-hmm. Yes. And they're like, but I don't want Joel to have a second turn before me. And I went, well, that's the choice.
Yeah, I like games where it's very easy to see that a trade-off, that risk-reward factor.
Yeah. And so this game it's also very unique because the game board is super long. So it's actually designed so you could actually you put the game board in front of everyone and you could actually play it all from one side if you really wanted to. Oh, okay. It doesn't normally work that way because when you're around the table, you just play with one person upside down. But it is a super long board because
so it's like a physical trail sort of thing.
And then you can play it so like, hey, we're gonna do the full trek, which is we're gonna go up and back. That you could do that as well. So there are all these different.
It's like I park the car down here. We
exactly
need to.
Right. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of things. Look, I like Tokaido. I really think it's a great. There is a second version reprinting, and that's the reason why I've rebought it is because it is out now with a.
You bought the second.
The second edition. I bought the second edition. I've always actually really enjoyed Tokaido from playing it on Board Game Arena, and then when I realized that when we went to PlayCon, they had a copy there for about $50. I picked it up. I'm like, yep, and I've played it about 4 times. Since then.
Sounds like good value.
Though. Yeah, it's great value. I highly recommend it. The art style is really, It's really well contrasty. It's very
it looks beautiful.
It's not too over the top. It's just enough.
Yeah, and this is a perfect game where we can have a chat whilst we're doing it. Okay, so I
need more games like that in my collection.
Yeah, and this is one of those games that is not necessarily always going to be my first. I need to play this game, but it is certainly one of those games that I think has a perfect demographic to play sometimes.
It's like a social filler.
Yeah, exactly
thing.
right.
Yeah.
And it's good enough that that they even got it got the duo treatment. So Tokaido Duo is now.
I have only played the duo version.
I have not played the duo version. So in a podcast to come up in the future, we are going to all play the duo version because currently Seven Wonders Duel I think is better than Seven Wonders. I think Splendor Duel is better than Seven Wonders.
Never played either.
Splendor Duel is 100% better than it. And I'm willing to bet that I think Tokaido Duo, I don't know if this will be the first game that I go.
I'm very interested.
But it does look very interesting.
There's not a lot of mechanical differences to what you said, as opposed to you have 3 characters that specialize as opposed to the spaces.
And you have 3 characters that are all going through different areas of the board.
So they're all doing this sort of loop around the board, and we'll roll 3 dice that match the characters.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
so it's kind of like CPUs.
On your turn, on your turn, you'll pick 2 characters to move, and I'll get the leftover.
Yeah,
and then as it switches, so it's like
that's cool. So you control 2 characters each.
I'm looking forward to doing a bit of a deep dive on having that one on a previous next podcast because it's on my shelf of shame. It's right there. It's on my shelf of shame.
You've got that.
I bought Duo because I love Tokaido. I've always thought it's a really such a simple, such a great system. Yeah. Now I will say, the only negative is that it can feel like it's very point salady. It can feel just very like.
So do you tally the points during the game?
You can. You can also not.
Oh, okay.
Like you can just go, we're going to hide it until the end of the game. Now, if you do it like you can tally along the way, it can feel really disheartening if you're at the back and you're not able to get any points. Yeah. But then also the flip side of that is if you do no point tallying and then right then you think you're doing really well, then all of a sudden you did really bad. That can be bad. But
I always find it interesting when a game tallies the points at the end because it feels tense all the way, right?
Yeah. I always like that too. So
also, you mentioned you play this at MacArthur Board Gamers. Typically, you can hear a band's playing in the distance. Mm-hmm. I imagine they're just playing 500 miles as you're going up this trek constantly.
Actually, it was I 100%. So when I wake up, I know I'm going to be.
Just you kept requesting it.
Exactly right. But play 500 miles. Anyway, so that was Tokaido. I just wanted to bring that one up because I really enjoy Tokaido. It's one of those old classic games. It's 12 years old now. It's gotten the reprint, and I really think more people should play it. If you're looking for a light to medium weight game that you can just pull out, the fact that it plays at 5 players and it doesn't really change the length of the game is what brings me back to it. Because I'm always looking for sometimes I have more than 4 players. I'm just I just need that 5-player game. Tokaido fits perfectly.
I will recommend the game here that we have not covered yet on our podcast, but it fits the same gap. Yep. That is Flamecraft.
Yes.
Where everyone plays cute little dragons and you're like, oh, maybe my dragon will visit the cafe or maybe I'll visit the bakery and you get little power-up rewards. But it sounds so similar to Tokaido in terms of that 45 minutes to an hour filler social.
And everyone also says that Flamecraft, the tokens in Flamecraft are A+. They're so good.
It's such a great production.
I agree. I haven't played it
similar
either,
price
but
point.
I get to play also.
Yeah, similar price point as well to this one.
Fantastic. All right, anyway, we're going to go from Tokaido and we're going to go to another lightweight game now. But this is one of the games that I touted at the start as being one of my favorite party games that I've played in the last year. And this game is Hand-to-Hand Wombat. This game was released in 2022, and it is by Matthew Inman, and it is basically it's the Exploding Kittens crew, right? So they're the guys who made Exploding Kittens.
The unicorn one?
Yeah,
Unstable Unicorns.
Unstable Unicorns.
Yes.
Now, Hand-to-Hand Wombat is, at its core, this is a social... It is dexterity blood on the clock tower is how I will quickly describe it. The way that it works... I
don't want to balance that grimoire. I'm telling you now.
No, so the way that it works is that in Hand-to-Hand Wombat, we are wombats, right? So this is a dexterity game in which wombats need to create their homes, their pyramids.
Now, their towers.
Their towers. Their towers are 6 layers high, and they all go from very big plates to the smallest plates.
For those listening, they're kind of like those toddler toys with the rings, where the big rings at the bottom and the top ring is it's exactly that.
Exactly that, right?
Yeah, there's 3 spires.
Now, if you know anything about wombats, wombats are blind. Okay.
Really?
They can't see.
All I know is they poo in.
Yeah, they basically they have really bad eyesight, and so in this game they replicate that by saying we're going to play this game right, you have to have your eyes shut for the entirety of the game. Okay. And then as a team, you have 1 minute or 45 seconds or so to then complete 3 of these pyramids. Okay. Now, the way that it works is that the base of the game box, which is your standard game board size, that is where the bases must stay. They must stay in here. And then with our eyes closed, under a time pressure, we have to somehow build 3 of these pyramids.
I think you get a minute, right?
Yeah, you get a minute. And you have to build 3 of these pyramids. Now, I mentioned that this game is blood on the clock tower dexterity, and that is because
there's a hidden trade-off.
There can be some good wombats, but there is also one bad wombat.
I love how it's called basic wombat. You're just such a basic wombat.
The basic wombat.
The wicked wombat.
The wicked wombat. Now, if you are the wicked wombat, the bad wombat, you do not want these pyramids to succeed. Now, the scoring of this game is very simple. If you get all 3 of the pyramids completed, the good side gets 2 points. If you get 2 of them, 2 of the 3, the good side gets 1. If you are only able to get 1 of them completed, the bad side gets 1 point. And if you get none of them completed, then the bad side gets 2 points. It's first to 3 is the winner. However, there is also a wombat out there called the confused wombat, who starts as a good wombat. But if the good side gets goes to 2 points, they immediately switch into a bad wombat, and all of a sudden, now similar.
That's pretty cool. I'm a confused wombat.
Similar to any other game of clock tower and any deduction games, wombats will be voted out of the colony, and they get voted out after every round. And so,
so the good players have a chance to pick who the evil wombat was.
That's right. Yeah. Now, even if you vote the evil wombat out, the game still goes on, because they don't know who they voted out until either they get to 3 points on either side. Right. Now, that's the game. And I have to admit, this is such a stupid concept that when I got given it for Christmas, I'm like, oh, here we go.
I really enjoyed it because I think I played it with your daughter and me, actually, on a Goobacon day.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool icebreaker of a game because all your eyes are closed and you can communicate.
You're allowed to talk to each other in the middle.
Yeah, because someone just said, "Oh, does anyone have the 5 part?" And I'm just gonna hold they all have little bumps on them, so you can feel this is the 5 or the 6 piece that I'm holding.
Yeah.
And then you can be like, "Oh, I've got the 5 piece," and hand that to someone. But if you're the bad one, but it's actually the 6 piece, and you hope that player doesn't count.
Now, there are a few rules, right? You're not allowed to take pieces outside of the theoretical boundary of the box.
Yeah, you can't
hold them at your chest. But there's nothing to say I can't hold it above. Right, because I'm in the boundary. That's fine. I can hold it up there, right? There's nothing to say that you can't put your hand over the top of this or hold this like this.
There's nothing to say you can't just put it upside down.
You can. No, absolutely you can. You can put this upside down if you want, right? But then what will happen is the game just kicks off and you go 3, 2, 1, go, and you find people are like going, "Okay, guys, I got a 6 on here. I'm going to take care of this pyramid. Joel, you start. All right, does anyone have a 4? Yes, I got a 4.
And I'll tell you, any game with like a 1 minute timer,
bonkers.
A sand timer is different because you don't really know. Like you can say it's a minute timer, but no one really knows. I think the fact you set a thing on your app or whatever, that's where the time pressure is.
And so after a minute, you all open up your eyes and you all go, "Oh, what the hell?" Like, "Oh, yeah, we all did it." But then,
or you pretend to go, "Oh."
Yeah, but then what ends up happening is that once you've done it, then you get to start having a chat about who you think is the evil
just
one.
On that, it's funny seeing a little kid pretend to be like, "Oh no,
what a shame."
So our ex-host Matt, his son Robbie, is classic for this. Robbie, did you do that? No. It sounded great. But Hand-to-Hand Wombat is one of those games, like I said, when I got given it, I was like, "Oh, thank you." Like, I was really happy, but I was like, I don't know what this is going to be.
What would I do with it?
What would I do with it? When would I play it? And then when I played, I'm like, dude, this is literally one of the best summer party games you can have, because you just really, you can have a beat, because you're only allowed to use one hand as well. You're not allowed to use 2 hands. You're only allowed to use 1 hand.
I'm totally borrowing all this off.
Yeah, that's fine. You can borrow it. But you're only allowed to use 1 hand. So that means you have drink in 1 hand if you're playing it. You're playing with the other. But you've got your eyes closed, so people are doing all this stuff. But then people, this will happen, right? People will be messing around and people will go 5, 4, 3. Why is there a 6 on top of the 3? Right? And they'll just literally immediately pull it off, and then but then it's not uncommon for people to go, "Yep, I've done it," and just dump it into the rest
Oh,
of the
you're
It's
kidding.
happened before,
And
right?
I'll be like, who did that?
So Hand-to-Hand Wombat.
So it's 3 to 6 players too.
We play. I actually really like it. So here's the thing about playing it. Now you do require to be close to the game box. So this is the one negative, which is that you do need to have the appropriate.
You're not playing this in Buckingham Palace, like
no, but you need. Well, I mean, you could, but you need to have an
table.
appropriate sized table,
I
right?
see.
So you need to go to the small room of Buckingham Palace, right?
Yeah.
So you need to have a small table that you can all be sitting around and have an appropriate arm length. Otherwise, that can feel like people are. But that is part of the charm when we played it, was that people would be leaning into the game, doing this kind of stuff, and like holding and getting ready.
Yeah.
And the game plays in about 25 minutes at most, right? So you can play a full game with 6 players, and you get to about 25 minutes.
I feel like 6 will be too many players. I think 3 or 4 would be the best.
5, I think, is the best.
Is it?
I think 5 is the best because there's always one bad wombat, but you may have a confused wombat.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the thing about
the confused wombat gets me.
It gets me every time. But the thing about this, so you will always have a bad wombat to start with. But the game doesn't end when he.
Oh, that changes, by the way. So, say I was the Wicked Wombat for the first round. These cards, I believe, reshuffle.
No,
right? They don't.
They don't. They stay with you.
Okay.
But if you get voted out, but if I vote the
team.
Wicked Wombat out, then we go again. But you don't know if you actually did vote the Wicked Wombat out.
I see. That's the element. Yeah.
So that's the thing.
And the player that's out, are they sort of just watch on for the next round?
Yeah. I will say this is one of those games that is hilarious to watch when you're not in it, because you can see the people who are the bad wombats and what they're doing. You can see the person who's like, I'm looking for a 6. I'm looking for a 6. And they're holding onto a 6. And you're like, guys, does anyone have a 6? And you're just holding onto it going, no, this is 5. And it's like, oh, no, sorry, that was actually the 6. And people are like, oh, yeah, that was actually a 6. And I'm like, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, so Ralph and I both love this game. It's one of those games that I think people would easily pass on because it's the Exploding Kittens team, which is I actually really enjoy the push your luck style of Exploding Kittens, but a lot of people may just pass it based on the fact that it's in a comic book, online comic, and that it may not seem like a game that they'd be super interested in.
I've played quite a few of their games. My favorite of theirs is Throw Burrito. It's another physical dexterity thing. This is much safer than Throw Burrito.
I actually just played, I think it's called Extreme Throw Burrito, and it's an outdoor version.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it's a massive inflatable.
Yeah, I think it's all waterproof too, so you can play it in a pool.
Yeah, it's basically like a big pool, inflatable sort of thing. And I have to say, it was much more enjoyable than it looked like it was going to be.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. If you can have the right environment for it, it's actually really good.
Yeah, we played at my old house. I really enjoyed it. But I think this is my favorite.
It destroyed the house. That's why.
Yeah, this is my favorite of the Exploding Kittens publisher. This is my favorite.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was Hand-to-Hand Wombat by the Exploding Kittens crew, which are the designers are Matthew Inman, Ilan Lee, and Corey O'Brien. I want to give a big shout to them because I thought the game was great.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are now going to move on to our gateway game of the week this week, which is Land versus Sea, which was provided to us by Let's Play Games Publishing here in Australia. We have a Let's Play of this that's going to be coming out soon, which was done by these two lovely gentlemen on either side of the table here. Game. But so, Ralph, I'm going to pass this on to you to give the overview of what is Land versus Sea.
Sure thing. So, Land versus Sea.
Sorry, I should say this was provided to us by Let's Play Games, but it is Good Games Publishing that has published the game here in Australia, is what I meant to say.
I think, globally, it's Good Games Publishing as well.
Anyway, so I just wanted to make sure I got that correct. So anyway, Ralph, take it away. Sorry about that.
So Land vs. Sea is essentially a different take on a classic game called Carcassonne or Carcassonne.
I was going to say it's like Hexason.
Hexason. Preach it. So
that's good.
Anyway, so I quite like this game because I feel personally it's simpler than Carcassonne. Essentially, the game starts out with just this one starting tile on the map. For those on the camera, it is this thing. And essentially, we each have 2 tiles in front of us. It's a head-to-head type game, but you can play 3-player or 4 players. The rules are a little bit different. But essentially, the core of the game stays the same. One player is the land player. They place a tile and create more of the land. And the opposing player is the sea player. They place a tile and create more of the sea. There's a few funny rules there, but essentially when a land mass is created or a sea is closed off, the other player will bank points or that player will bank points. And essentially it's most points wins. you get bigger points the more tiles you connect. There's a lot of cool scoring variations. This game can become very in-depth. There's certain the art is beautiful, and there's certain pictures on the board like caravans or sea monsters and things like that, and they have special powers or in terms of scoring. If you play with those advanced rules, if you have more caravans together on the land, you create a little caravan trail and you can make some meat points. So you start to see the tiles differently, and I think this game rewards you if you play it multiple times, and there are set objectives you can strive towards as well. Joel, do you want to add anything onto that little description there?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. It's pretty straightforward. We're collecting areas by closing them off and completing them. I did like the bonus sort of points that we have in some of the zones. So, for example, on this tile here, even though you were the land player, if I was to finish this area, I would get some points. Even though I've completed one of your areas.
It's kind of stealing a points from your opponent strategically.
Yeah, and especially in our game, if you watch the video, that was quite pivotal.
It was,
I think you took a sort of 14-point swing in a game where I think we finished at 40. So it was...
Yeah, that's actually quite low scoring for the game as well, because we played with not all the tiles in the game.
I thank you, sir.
I'm just fixing up Joel's microphone so that it's pointing towards his face and away from his face.
And there's some cool little power-ups and things like just something simple like take another turn or try and inhibit your opponent from...
Yeah, you were tending to steal a tile off me at just the right time that I did not want to style Sol.
You save it for a crucial time when you realise the map is getting really closed up and you don't want your opponent to score those points. So yeah, I've played this game with my wife, and it was kind of that weeknight game where we were like really tired, but we just wanted to play a little something.
Yeah.
I actually opened it that night and learnt it that night within 10 minutes. And we played it for a good 40 minutes and both really enjoyed it.
Yeah, like you explained the game to me. We did the teach. I think the teach was maybe 5 minutes, 10 if that. And within 2 turns of the game, I had it figured out. I was like, yep, this is good to go.
It takes the best part of Carcassonne, which is building the cities, and just says, we're just going to make a game all around that. So if you've ever seen photos of this game, it literally is just the best part of Carcassonne when you play that game is literally going, oh, I got a city. Oh, I can keep making this city huge. Yeah. Even though you know making a massive city is not good strategically, it just feels good to keep building that city.
If you can close it off, it's good.
It's one of the best dopamine hits in the early gateway games, I think.
If you have played Carcassonne before, I'd probably say the main differences are one, there's no worker placements in this one.
So this one does have like, you know, in Carcassonne, how there's a thing where you place the meeple on the map and eventually take them off?
Yeah.
This has a similar mechanic to it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other main thing is that you can play this game as a team-based 2 versus 2, but it primarily is a 1 versus 1.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's 1v1.
Yeah, in my opinion as well, having seen it, and look, I wasn't part of the Let's Play, and I haven't played the game yet, but I watched you guys play it from the producing role, and basically that's what I got from this game. I'm like, this is a 1 versus 1 game, and this is a game where it actually has some... I
had some tight decisions to make.
Yeah, here in the game, you have different ways of being able to play. You can actually play this game at 3 players. It does have the ability. It does have options for that. However, I would be saying that realistically, this game kind of fits that niche.
I think it's designed to be played at 2.
Yeah,
but you could make it work at 3. But I think enjoyment-wise, 2 is definitely better.
Yeah, it's got a tip for tat. Like, you take a turn, I take a turn. It's very quick in that sense. I like kind of playing open-handed games with kids, especially.
Yeah.
And this is the type of game where you can openly talk about your move, unless you're playing competitively. But if you're playing with kids, you kind of want to encourage them along. You can say, you can sort of hint them, if you put this tile here, it's going to bank you so many points, and you can help them out. And the child won't necessarily realize, I only did that because you recommended it, but it makes them feel good about themselves when they place a tile down and bank that.
I like what you did with our Let's Play as well, which is that if you want to play a little bit of a shorter game, just take some of the tiles out.
Yeah, I don't know if that's an official thing, but
no, but I know it's not an official thing, but you can. This is why this game is just like, hey, if you want to play a game with your kids, be like, I don't want to play anything too long. Just say, hey, we can play this, but then take some of the thing out. Now, the good thing about the tiles as well is the tiles are double-sided. So you have 2 options for every one of these tiles. You can go, actually, I'd like to play this tile, but actually I like that side better, right? So that means as well that even though you're taking tiles out of the game board, you're not really limiting your options. You're still getting a lot of tiles to pick from here and play. And
how cool is it at the moment when you get to place the whirlpool or volcano tile, right?
I saw the opportunity to place it. And I spent the next 3 turns I just want to get this tile down.
It sucks that you don't make those points straight away. Like you still have to figure out a way to score that, but I think it's really cool. It
felt good at the time. I think it negatively affected me.
Yes, it did, because I think I
got the 5 bonus points. I got 1 point for that tile.
It was great.
But that was a good learning moment for me, though. That was nice.
If you want to see a let's play of this game and see what we're talking about and how it plays, the game between these two gentlemen will be posted on our YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/@BGGateway. Make sure you click the like and subscribe button down below. Also ring that bell for the notification so you can be notified when we upload any videos in the future, such as podcasts or Let's Plays, which we're going to be looking to do a few more of. Anyway, before we move on to our discussion topic, gentlemen, I do need to ask, does this get the Gateway Game seal of approval? How do we feel about it? I need to just get your final thoughts on this.
I think so. Yeah, it's easy to learn. Quick setup, quick teardown, quick teach. Visually, very, very easy for all ages. There is land and there is sea. There is not much else that you need to be looking for. A couple of little symbols with bonus X's and things like that. The scoring is simple. The kids can see how it's going along the way. And even if you're just new to games in general, this would be very easy for you to pick up.
Yeah, I can see myself definitely playing with kids and just the simple rules that we play.
Yeah.
But in saying that, it does have more depth to it. So I would love to actually play this with the advanced rules and really get my head scratching. Because I could see, you can already visually see the strategy behind it, right?
Yeah. It feels like a game that I would start off with and then grow with as I get more and more in depth and I learn how to understand games better.
Yeah, like I doubt you'll ever get to the point where you can count the tiles and be like, what, only 16 caravan? Like I would never get to that point.
There are some people that probably would. But
there would be. There are people out there that can do those things and they generally win the game all the time.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I highly recommend this one. I will more than happily play it because the box says it takes 40 minutes. I think after you play it once, it'll be like a 20-30 minute game.
Carcassonne of this.
I prefer this. I'm not a huge Carcassonne player. I haven't been brought up playing Carcassonne.
Fair enough.
I felt like the scoring in this was a lot simpler than Carcassonne.
I've put a lot more time into Carcassonne and it was one of the first 3 games that I got, so I'm probably a bit more biased on it. I like Carcassonne, but I haven't given this enough time to say that it's taken it over.
All right. Let's just say, okay, for any CGP greyouts there, hexagons are the best of gons. Okay, so
yeah.
Hexagons are nice.
Hexes are better than squares, maybe not. But look, if you want to play it by yourself, make sure that you go and check out Good Games Publishing. They have it for offer at the moment.
Yeah.
And
we'll be raffling this one off at our game day as well.
Yeah, Sydney's Family Game Day coming up. Ooh.
A brand new copy, not
this copy.
Yeah, it'll still be.
We were going to raffle
this one will be quite worn out by then.
We were going to raffle this off at our last game day. However, it arrived one day after it. So now,
look, it is in our library, so
it's now in the library.
Will be there, and we can teach it to you within 10 minutes as well.
Absolutely. So not only will we be able to teach you that game, you may have a chance to win a copy for yourself. Anyway, so that was our game looking at Tokaido, Hand-to-Hand Wombat, and Land versus Sea. We're going to now move on to our discussion topic for this week, which was actually suggested by Joel. So
we're on the team now. We've got to make some contributions.
And you know what? It's a great contribution. So why don't you tell everyone what your idea for the discussion topic is, and then we'll get into it.
So the topic was, what do you find is your most rewarding game or games?
Yes. So what games give you the most rewarding experiences? And so it's a very interesting topic that we had to have a think about because I'd like you to start us off, Joel, because I mean I've got my own opinion, but I think all 3 of us have got similar, like a little varying answers.
Well, there's different ways you can go at it. I personally picked a individual game that I tend to find every time it does come to my table, whether we have new players who haven't played games very much or people who've played games a lot. This game tends to work with most people, and that might just be our group. But I've actually picked a social deduction game, which is One Night Ultimate Werewolf. If you haven't played this before.
I have played it.
I have not.
You have not played this before?
Right there. It's on the shelf.
I played a bunch of Werewolf and I've heard a lot about this
I will absolutely show this to you. Now, the main premise of the game is it sort of goes in 2 stages. Everybody's going to get a card with a character on it, and that's secret to you. And you will see your character. It'll go back in the middle.
Oh, I got land. Sorry.
I'm the C. I'm the C. Yeah.
Similar to most social deduction games, you'll either be a good player, the villagers, or you will be the werewolf. And what's going to happen in this game is that although the first stage you know what character you started as, you may no longer be that character anymore, and you won't get to look at your new card again.
Oh, okay.
So this game essentially goes in 2 stages. Firstly, everyone will mix some stuff up. You need to work out what team you're on, firstly, and then second from that, we then need to find the werewolf and execute them.
This is also a timed game. It's played under a time pressure, by the way.
Oh,
so,
love
for
it.
example,
Love it. A social game with time pressure
we
too.
we generally find about 10 minutes is good, unless you've got a massive group, maybe do a little bit more.
We do it 8 minutes.
So 10 minutes is the whole game.
Yeah, so the reason why it's called One Night Werewolf is because you only play one night, which is that you get to look at your card, you shut your eyes, you press go on the app, so you have to play with the phone app, and then it walks you through the steps of the first night.
Cool.
Now, the way that, exactly like Werewolf and Blood on the Clock Tower, is the demon, the werewolf, the werewolf, and we'll get 3 bluffs in the center. Now, the werewolf will at some point be able to look potentially at those bluffs in the center, and we'll be able to then figure out, okay, this is who I can be. The werewolf in this game, though, does not know who their minions are. Doesn't know. The minions know who the werewolf is, but they have no clue who the minions are.
And there is some special ability stuff. Sometimes, depending on your player count, you might get 2 werewolves. If they wake up, they will know each other, but you don't know if you're still a werewolf anymore. So you know who started, and there's this very big sort of cat and mouse where you want to give information out, because if you're on the village team, we need to work out where the werewolves are. But if you give too much information out and then find out you are a werewolf now you're a bit screwed.
You also have you've got the sage, they get to look at, so the way that this game works is very similar so the way that the sage works is at the end of the game, if the good team wins, the evil team get 1 shot to say, I think you're the sage. And if they're correct, the evil team wins, right? So you can't be too obvious because you know who the demon is, the werewolf, sorry, but you cannot give that information away. So you're trying to be coy about it, but also not doing that. But then you've also got roles such as there's the stonemasons, which are essentially the evil twins from Blood on the Clock Tower. So the stonemasons know who each other are, but that also could potentially be a bluff. Like, I'm a stonemason. Yep, I'm a stonemason.
And are stonemasons the evil team?
No, they're a good team. They're a good team.
Yeah.
You've got roles like the drunk.
We can kind of vouch for each other. But then somebody else might say they were as well, and it's
I see.
So you've got the drunk. The drunk actually has to then take one of their cards randomly from the center and put it in front of them and change it.
Okay.
You've got the
after the demon sees it.
After the
it depends on what you get. There's lots of it, but what I liked about it, and what I find rewarding is, for one, you can pick the really simple. It's got a starter set of abilities. It says use these characters first if it's your first game, right? And it's really easy. Most of the people just do basic things like, let's just swap your card and my card, and I get to see the new one. So I know who I am now, and it's nice and simple. The game only goes for 10 minutes, so they don't need a massive time investment of an hour or, I'm not really into games. I don't know if this is for me. Well, that's cool. It's 10 minutes for the first game. We might even make it 5 minutes, set the timer smaller. Yeah. And if you don't like it, we can move on. But this is typically the game that I find that we say 10 minutes is all you need to invest. It's currently 8 o'clock, and we leave at midnight having played about 25 rounds of it. Perfect. And it's just taken over the night sort of thing.
So now that I've got a bit of a baseline of what this game is, what are some of the moments that have really elevated this game for you?
So the thing that I really like about this game is the puzzle of it. So it's really good, almost like a murder mystery if you ever watch those old crime shows and you finally find out who the killer was. As the game unfolds, you're like, oh, you've switched them to here. Thanks for revealing it. And I've actually switched them with them. So he's the werewolf now. And all these things come out along the way.
Oh, cool.
And then at the end of the game, you get the big reveal and there's this big, the game went for 10 minutes and then you talk about it for 20, right?
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Oh man, no, you didn't know, really but what I was saying before, I was actually lying and this is what I was trying to do. And
is there much of an overhead to actually teach this game to people?
No. So typically...
It's about 10 minutes each. You just need everyone to know what the roles are.
Sure.
Typically what we would do for a teach is I would give everyone your role and then I'd read out what the roles do and you just listen for yours and then we can start the game.
Sure.
You don't need to know all of them, just listen for yours. Good to go.
The app is very good as well. So when you're asleep, it'll be like, troublemaker, open your eyes.
Just where words.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Open your eyes and change 2 players' cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Troublemaker, shut your eyes. So it's very, very easy to understand.
Yeah, you can play it without the app. Okay. And it gives you there's a script that you can read off and is if you add this player in, put them in at slot 7 and that's when you read off. But the app honestly does such a good job. It's free. It's
one of my favorite game experiences actually came from One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which is there's a role called the Tanner, and the Tanner is the character that's thrown in because they're on their own team, and the Tanner wants to die. So if you can die as the Tanner, you immediately win. No one else, and so you're the only winner.
The Tanner is one of my favorite characters because typically the game is played that nobody wants to know. Like if I'm the werewolf and I know I'm still the werewolf, I don't want anyone to find out. So you start getting a bit cagey with your information.
Yeah.
But the Tanner actually wants to be killed. So you almost play like I am a werewolf and, I don't want to say because, and it adds a really good depth to the game.
My experience was basically I caught out my cousin Matt because we were playing it with a group of like 9 of us, and they were and him and his sister were being a bit silly, and they went, it's like, if you're a werewolf, put your hand in the air. And I instantly just did a quick like, oh crap, no. And they caught it, and they were like, and like for that moment, I'm like, no, sorry, no, that was an accident. And then they were convinced, and they got me, and I immediately won the game. I'm like, yes!
Oh, beautiful. That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
So what is 1 week Ultimate Werewolf? Is that a legacy variant?
It's a game that you play over like 7 nights.
It essentially turns into closer
it's
to Cluedo.
It's only 7 minutes,
Cluedo
right?
It's Cluedo kind of meets One Night Ultimate Werewolf. One Werewolf is kind of how it's interesting like that.
I haven't played the week one, but yeah.
Look, I took this question from a little bit of a different standpoint because for me, when I heard, what's my favorite, what gives me the most rewarding experiences, my mind immediately went not to a game specific, but to a type of game, which is my most rewarding experiences from board gaming comes from finding a plan and executing the plan. And then getting it done. Now that doesn't mean that I pre-move 40 moves in chess and I do that. It could be like my plan was this, and then a spanner was thrown in the works, and I was able to
overcome adversity
and get to it. And so like those moments in Brass, why I love it, in Barrage, even moments like the Tanner story was a very quick wit where I was like, my mind immediately knew what my plan was. As soon as they said, I went, I've got to now pretend that I've been caught in the lie, and I did that. And so for me, the most rewarding experiences I get out of board gaming are when, like, don't get me wrong, like I love Hand-to-Hand Wombat, but that's just silly fun. But it's not the most rewarding game. The most rewarding games I've had are games of Twilight Imperium, where you come out the back and you go, I had a plan, and I've been planning this for 3 hours, and I was able to execute it and win.
My experience is usually I have a plan. I tried doing it for 8 hours. It didn't work.
But even then, to come back and talk about it, like for me, and that's why I keep coming back. Like this is something that also video games do provide as well. The idea of like, especially multiplayer games and when you're doing competitive things, but like with board games, because we normally all start from the same base, the same foundation of like, okay, we all have these things. Go now, we have the game in front of us. I really find that when I have that battle of wits with you guys and all the other people out there, it's like it's the reason why I really do love heavy games at the same point in time. It's like, yes, they're heavy and they can be hard to learn, but when I come out the other end of it having thought, I really wanted to do blank, and I was able to do that, and then I found a really cool combo or a really cool thing. That to me is what I feel really rewarded by.
Do you think it's it's a personal accomplishment thing? It's like it's nice that you're set to do something, you stuck to it, committed, and now you've got it done. It doesn't always pay off.
Well, I think a little bit, yeah. And this maybe speaks a little bit to my temperament or my little psyche, being a little sidestep, which is that I'm actually a bit of a run. Like I like running. And I've set myself a personal goal of doing the marathon next year, which you guys know, but this is what I'm trying to do, my first ever marathon at 36, right? But the idea is that it says a lot about the saying, which is that that's a sport that I really enjoy, and it doesn't affect anyone else. It's just me. I'm just setting myself a goal and trying to achieve that goal by putting work into it. And it's one of the reasons why I play our friend James so often, which is I know he's much better at heavier games than I do. He has a much better intricate understanding of the mechanics. He understands how they interplay and can actually do the calculations.
He can see the puzzle.
He can see a lot better than I can. But there are games where I can do things and I know I'm either A, throwing a spanner in the works, or B, I'm actually going head to head with him, and you and Damo for that matter.
And you're not purposely throwing the game; you're trying to win.
No,
and there are some creating new, unique situations in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. No, when I say throwing a spanner in the works, is that I would do something that he probably wasn't expecting, right?
Yeah.
But I'm at my core trying to do that same thing that he to do better, and that's why I love those games. Because when I come out of a game of like Barrage or Brass, Twilight, Gaia Project, these bigger, heavier games, and I can see something, I come out and go, Oh, that was super cool. I'm glad that I did that, and then I can stop thinking about what I can do better next time. And games even like Seven Wonders Duel. Like I was super heavy games, but Seven Wonders Duel are like that.
Oh, that's
too.
very thinky. What's like the word mentally?
Mentally challenging. Yeah. Like, but it's like where you do that thing where like, well, if I take this, I think Ralph will take that, which will allow me to get this, which should get me that. And if I can see that plan execute, I'm like, great, that's for me. But what about you, Ralph? I mean, do you have a game? Do you have a specific feeling?
I listen to many different types of music. I play many different types of a board game.
Yeah.
But I found personally what I enjoy is not necessarily I enjoy every type of game. I really enjoy Euro games and the heavy thinky ones too. But
Ameritrash, all the way.
Yeah, but me personally, I think I'm more of an events guy. And I'm not thinking about Clock Tower. I'm just thinking about your question, Joel, about
the most rewarding experience.
The most rewarding experience is something that's a bit laid back, something you can have a drink. I call those the beer and pretzel games, right? Where you can have beer and a pretzel and still enjoy a game. And it's an afternoon. It's a good 4-hour affair.
Yeah.
So for me, I want to bring up a game called Nemesis. Have you heard of this one?
I've heard of, seen, not played.
Yeah. So
love it.
This one is essentially Aliens, the movie, but in a board game. And they called it Nemesis to avoid copyright. But
I reckon they tried to get Alien, but
there was already an Alien board game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
so that's the other confusing thing too.
It's how old is that game as well? Is that?
I think it's like 7 or 8 years old now. Nemesis.
Okay.
But I'm just talking about the base game. There's like Nemesis Aftermath and things like that. But just the normal one, the regular one is the best in my opinion.
Yeah.
So essentially everyone's a character, and you have a secret objective whether you need to survive the spacecraft because the spacecraft has to get to Earth. The whole board is a spacecraft.
Yeah.
Has to get to Earth, but you have to survive, but also make sure player number 3 dies. And you have no way to kill player number 3. But hey, this is a true story. I had to make sure that I survived, but I had to kill player 2.
Okay.
And player 2, mechanic happened where the alien was in a room with him. It just spawned in a room with him, and he was fully healed, had ways to get out, had tricks up his arsenal. It's a semi-co-op game because people have objectives where you need other players to survive as well as you.
Yeah.
So you help each other out, and you never really know who's on your team. I wasn't on this player's team.
How did he know?
I was in the control room and he was in the airlock with the alien, so I sealed the door so he couldn't get out until I can get to the room that ejects the airlock, and I sucked him and the alien out. And then on my very next turn, I was in the control room again trying to look at the engines to see if they were all operational, because there's mechanics where they can break and other players can go into a specific engine out of the 3 and break them. And I wanted to make sure they were working so I can make it back to Earth and survive. If not, I die by a certain clock timer.
Yeah.
And they were all good. So I tried to get out and realized I made too much noise in the engine room, and I spawned the big baddie, the big queen bee there, and that killed me after a few rounds. I almost survived it. But then other players realized this ship is already on fire. We have so many rooms malfunctioning. We're just going to try and eject out of here. And there's just, that game creates so many amazing stories where you can sit back.
It's those moments, right?
Yeah, it's those cinematic moments where you can sit down with a beer and a pretzel and enjoy that game. I call many games beer and pretzel games. Zombicide is another great one.
Yeah.
It's done its time, but I'll tell you what, it creates those cinematic moments when you set up the board in a little scenario.
I think you need to have beer and pretzels for Nemesis as well, because the 2 times that I've played it, it can be one of those games that is super polarizing, because it can be those games where you get knocked out. Yeah, it's like, well, because you have a moment, like if you're player 2, you could be like, yeah, I'm feeling really good, I'm healed. And then Ralph goes, haha, sucker, locks you in, and then you die, and now you're
not just that, like I can throw a decoy so the alien runs into your room.
Absolutely.
Things like that.
There's all this stuff that goes
There's so many cool mechanics behind it, and every room has different mechanics, different computers you can use, and you get different weapons, but ammo's hard to find. You can craft stuff. And like there's just really cool video game-based mechanics in a board game.
Yeah.
And because it's not overbearing in terms of mechanic wise, but there are a lot of rules.
Yeah.
So there's a huge rules reference. But after you play a game or 2, it is a real chill game that creates those crazy stories.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, that was our discussion topic. We have the man who loves his beer and pretzels.
Love him.
We have me, who likes pre-planning and executing a plan. What's the meme? It's like,
I like controlled chaos.
Yeah, the meme feels like it's from the show where you prepare the plan, you execute the plan, you prepare for the plan to go off the rails, you disregard the plan entirely, right?
That's right.
And then we also have Joel, which is, I love your story about talking about One Night Ultimate Werewolf, because I think that really does say a lot about the fact that you love having those moments where you get to talk after the game. It's like, that's also part of the reason why you love Buying the Clock Tower, because you can talk about like when you were doing that.
I mean, how many times have we spent another hour after Clock Tower's finished talking in the car park outside the venue?
Yeah, Ash really surprised me. She was the Fangoo in our last game, and I did not see that coming.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so with that, we're going to bring it to the end of our podcast number 62. Once again, I would like to welcome you, Joel, to the official podcast crew. It's lovely to have you here. And once again, I want to make sure that you, watching this podcast, go and buy your tickets for Sydney's Family Game Day on the 11th of January 2025.
It's got a good ring to it.
Yeah, we are actually going to have, by the time that you are seeing this, we will have our the website up, which is going to be sydneysfamilygameday.com.au or .com, either one of those. Check them out. They'll take you straight to the tickets page. And maybe we'll get both of them actually, because why not? We can see.
Sounds good to me.
We'll see how that goes. Make sure you go and buy your tickets. Go and check out our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/@BG Gateway. Go to our Facebook page, because that is where we'll be posting most of the updates for the event coming up to it. And whilst you're at it as well, make sure you'll find the link there to join. You can join our mailing list, which will also be sent out updates through that as well. So when you purchase a ticket, you'll need to put in your email address. That's so that we can actually contact you as well. So make sure you do that. Next week, we hopefully will have Damien back. So we'll have all four of us around the mics once again. Ooh. And look, I'm excited for that one. So we are super excited for the rebranding of B3GD to Sydney's Family Game Day. We hope to see you there. We hope to see you again in the next podcast. Until then, see you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.